You're listening to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast, the podcast that keeps your practice sharp and your clients happy. I'm your host, immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and every week we're bringing you insights, tips, and real-world conversations with top immigration attorneys and industry leaders. Whether you're here to grow your practice, stay on top of the latest trends, or get inspired, you're in the right place. Ready? Let's go. Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode 446 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast. Great and happy. I don't know if you can hear for yourself, but happy to have Bob Weber on. I always want to have him on like every month, but the man's busy. A great immigration attorney in the employment base, headquartered in the Minnesota-Minneapolis area. He has his own podcast as well, and very strong position on LinkedIn. Great things he writes about. And last time I had it on was like 4 Christmases ago, and doing a holiday session right now. He's a very festive guy, dressed up festively. But just a heads up, it's the topics we talk about in the future of our practice and immigration and practice immigration law. It's all going to be very what's the West word? Disheartening. So be prepared for that one. And I guess I'll do an intro plug, just lift you up, give you the energy to think about what we're going to talk about. Is that in times of hardship, which we're going through right now, I just have to send an email out to a bunch of people from trial ban countries saying, you're a citizen, your green card holder, may not matter. Who knows what's going to happen? It's just like hard to even think about this stuff we're dealing with. ICE detaining stuff, the nastiness in the tweets that are coming out, the nastiness in immigration court. There's these hard times that happen, but it really these are times as hard as it is and down you get. These are times when you find meaning in what you do, and you find like, is this really what I want to do? And it's where meaning comes. Am I just doing this for money? Or am I doing this because I believe, I want to help people going through this process? I want to make America better, a better country by having quality, talented people coming here and working hard to take things to the next level. Just like many of our families have done, come here and we contribute, and we want other people to contribute as well. And also as a time for creativity to come out, because when I look back at my business, I was full solo answering my phones, everything for 10 years. And the last Trump administration, I got so tired and stuff like that that I just actually started the toolbox. That I'm like, I'm going to do this and maybe switch off, not practice, but help teach people. And that caused me to make this whole second business and everything. And that caused me to find my first associate, and it built up the firm right there that I wasn't expecting at all from the pain of what I was going through. And then after that, when the pandemic happened, I saw the numbers on our marketing, people visiting my website, my YouTube views, all were going down. And I'm like, I got to think more creatively of how I'm going to get my message out there, doing shorts and different blog types of stuff. And that then doubled up my business as well. So all of a sudden, I was a game changer in that year. And even now, as seeing the hardships that are happening, but also many are experiencing this, less phone calls coming to the office, people have less money. I've had to be more creative, and I'm thinking about new ways, and started already of creating, content online using artificial intelligence. This forces you, as that, necessity is the mother of all invention, and the necessity of the hardships we're going through is going to push us. Some people are not going to be pushed or fall. It's just the way life works. But the survival of the fittest is a misnomer. It should be a survival of those who adjust the best to the environment kicks in. That's why the whole point of the toolbox that really just comes down to it, so you can learn and listen. And if you listen to my top 10 episode I did previous to this, I ended with some AI tips and more stuff like that about service experience. How do you adapt and evolve to the situation? Maybe taking on additional practice areas, maybe doing habeas cases, maybe doing immigration court. These are all harder to do, but there's more people there needed. But also, for example, you may want to add consular processing to your toolbox. And shameless plug, we have a course on that coming up December 18th. A very inexpensive course for what you're going to make out of that to learn how to do consular processing ins and outs, whether you're new to it or whether you've been doing it. Live course, 2+ hours is going to be, and with video recording afterwards, that'll be accessible. Email me info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com for info on that. But just be mindful, these opportunities come from that. In the depths of the despair, you got to kind of think about your glass half full and say, kind of thank you, God, because this is going to be what pushes me to take me where I need to be. And that's the way you got to think about it. Having said that, without further ado, let's go to the conversation. None of the information provided here is intended as individual legal guidance. Please consult with the attorney about your case, but you all know that already. Let's get the show started. Hi, Bob. Happy holidays. Thanks for coming on the show again.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, John. Yeah, I was mentioning, I mainly practice employment-based immigration, as you know, and I have kind of an interesting career arc in that I started as a law clerk in 1996. I graduated from law school in 1999. And so I feel like I've kind of been the poster child of the boom era of employment based immigration. And I guess I'm here to say at the end of 2025 that maybe that era is over.
Oh boy.
And that we're kind of entering a new regime. And I think everybody who practices immigration law realized that Trump is a big factor. But I think there are other factors that are not Trump that are at play. And I mean, I kind of am here to talk about those things and maybe engage you or your audience about these things. I mean, of course, I mean the easy thing is to say, Trump obviously and his people, Stephen Miller, et cetera, have done all kinds of things to discourage immigration on all kinds of fronts and even in employment based immigration. But if you think about the traditional track, one big way in which employment based immigration went forward is people would come here as international students. They would potentially get H 1Bs. They would get sponsored for green cards. And that was, a track that was used by thousands of people successfully for the last 25 years. Now, Trump has obviously discouraged F1 student visas, discouraged H 1Bs, created this $100,000 fee, which I mean is sort of complicated into how it's going to be implemented. But there's three categories that I think are three areas that are not Trump that are also potentially fundamentally changing at least employment based immigration. One area, one of the three other areas is just the quotas that we've known about and the slow processing. So obviously the H-1B cap has been around forever. The visa bulletin delays have been around, for a long time, but have expanded to, all countries in EB2 and EB3, and it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. And labor certification processing is extremely slow. But those things have nothing to do with Trump. The visa bulletin, that wasn't Trump. The slow processing, that was actually more Biden than anything. So processing a perm. So that's a big factor. I think people are very discouraged about, getting an H-1B or even trying to wait for their priority date to be current. So I think that's not a Trump thing. That's just a thing that's in immigration law, and it's finally caught up to us that they've not reformed the system, and so many people are waiting. And then the third, the third thing. So you got Trump, you've got the system itself, and then the third thing is the economy. I think that we've seen this rolling recession for white collar workers that started in about 2022. I think people forget that one of the famous things was when Elon Musk bought Twitter and fired like everyone at Twitter. But, that thing still runs, Twitter still runs. And so I feel like that was the beginning of all of the big companies basically going through and laying people off in large numbers, including lots of H-1B workers. And then you add in now whatever role AI is playing. And, I think there's kind of a argument that a big part of employment-based immigration in the 21st century was essentially American companies bringing in foreign workers to do math because Americans aren't very interested in doing math. But if AI can do the math now, then maybe they don't really need the foreign workers anymore. And we're seeing, of course, even, American college graduates, including, computer science graduates and other fields that would, you'd think people would get hired. They're having a hard time getting a job. So, and again, I mean, maybe that's Trump. I mean, maybe the tariffs and some of his, but I think I mean, it was starting during the Biden administration that the economy itself doesn't need as many foreign workers, seemingly. And so that affects the macro of employment based immigration. And then the last one, the one that has really come up in the last year or two, and you may have seen this. I mean, you follow these things, but there's a lot of competition with all these, platforms and all these kind of AI enabled tools and pseudo law
Crazy.
firms and Reddit and all these,
Yeah.
and I think that there's been this I feel like there's been this realization in 2025, particularly, at least for me, that the moat of it. I always thought that immigration law had a pretty good moat in that it was very technical and complicated, and so it was hard for competitors to just jump in. I mean, you've developed tons of very niche expertise in the areas you practice in. But one of the things that I underestimated was that these newcomers to the field have sort of jumped in and used technology and other things to their credit, but maybe the people that we're providing the services to, they don't value the years of expertise. I mean, I'm not saying they should. I mean, that's they're free. And one of the guys in my office says it's like becoming a gourmet chef, but then working at McDonald's. It's like the people who are eating at McDonald's are not really appreciating the gourmet,
Yeah.
approach to it. And I mean that's maybe too strong because it's really denigrating what we do as immigration lawyers. But I just point out that competition is another bucket. You sort of have the Trump administration, you have the existing system, which was built in 1990 and is failing us. You have the economy and the demand for workers. And then you have competition by other players, and you put all those things together. I don't think there's been anything else like that for the last 25 years. You had different administrations which were more pro immigration or less. You had different backlogs. You had even the great financial recession. There was a recession, but and definitely there was a slowdown in hiring, but I think there was a general idea that the economy needed the kinds of, F1 students. And there definitely weren't, all these AI enabled platforms and all these things that were kind of out competing with immigration lawyers. So I just think that going into 2026, again, I don't want to be, obviously this sounds very pessimistic, but I just think it's like important to know, what's your market, like where are you living, right? And so I think there's things happening right now in employment based immigration that have never happened before. And it's not just Trump. And, those of us who, I haven't really become a Bitcoin millionaire yet. So I'm still out here working on cases and earning, making a living. And I got two kids left who may need to go to college. Although, then again, maybe they'll make more money if they become a carpenter. But, so yeah, so that's kind of I mean, I don't know what you think of all these kind of radical ideas, or maybe they're not so radical, but
No, I mean,
um
each of them have comments to make, but we're going through this even outside immigration laws. We're entering no man's land right now with regards to the economy and Trump. I mean, they're trying to start war with Venezuela. Who knows what's going on? Israel, Ukraine, Iran. There's all these layoffs. These are clients that normally pay us. So if there's marriage or employment based EB-1A, national interest waiver, they might not have the larger sums to be able to like pay when you have here 10,000 layoff here, 10,000 layoff there. Uh, Before we get to each
yeah,
of the details, I want to dive
yeah.
into what does this look like for your firm in 2026? I mean, because you've grown, you have a partnership, and you get a
Yeah,
lot of
that's right.
cases.
No, definitely. Yeah. So we definitely have grown. When I talked to you back in 2022, I still owned 100% of my firm. Since then, I've added two partners. We've really scaled a lot. Our I mean, we've always had an employer oriented practice, but we saw really big growth with like the EB2 NIW practice in 2023 and 2024. But that's really slowed down this year because they're just a lot stricter. And I mean, I'm definitely a person who tries to only proceed on cases which are successful. And but that's been a moving, they moved the goalposts in the middle of the game, and that
Mhm.
also started during the Biden administration. One point that you just briefly touched on there, which, those filing fee increases for the Biden administration, we don't talk about those enough. Those were so huge, those filing fee increases. I mean, when I talk to a family of four that needs to adjust status, it's like, what are they going to take out a mortgage to I
Mhm.
mean, so obviously people want, I mean, they just literally can't even afford lawyers because, the government fees alone are gonna break them.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so 2025 has been a recalibration for my practice. I mean, we grew a lot, and we were still busy and growing in the first half of 2025, but that's when we really started to see the difficulties with like the EB2NIW practice. And we still handle cases. There are still people who are eligible, it's just a stricter standard. We also do, O1s and EB1s and, entrepreneur type things. But we're trying to recalibrate to the demand and to the realities of the system. And our employer clients, I mean, maybe it's just the companies I represent, but they're not doing a lot of hiring, and some of them are obviously laying people off. And I don't know. I mean, we're just now kind of harvesting like the H-1B cap. But it's hard to know. I mean, it's hard to believe that the cap, I mean, what's weird is that you might have a better chance of getting an H-1B this year because
Yeah.
there'll be less demand. But this $100,000 fee is very, confusing. Like, who's it really going to apply to? They obviously have proposed the wage based selection system, which I assume will go through. But yeah, so 2025 was kind of a recalibration year, and it may continue into 2026 for my firm. And like I mean, I tell people in our office, it's not like we don't have anything to do, but we're just not seeing the growth. I spent so much of my career just trying to get on top of demand. And now, that's not a problem. I mean, basically we keep up with demand. And then, one of the hard things too in my practice is that I've just never, I've always tried to only recommend strategies that I think are going to be successful. And this is where I think the competition and in the system is tricky because I think there are players out there who will, oh, you want EB1? Yeah, I'll file you
Yeah.
EB1. Oh, you want EB2 NAW? I'll file you EB2 NAW. Oh, you have a great case,
Yeah.
um, and especially if it's not even lawyers that run the firm. Um, I mean, they don't have any professional responsibility. They're
Yeah.
they're not even lawyers, and it's up to clients. I mean, it's a clients get to decide these things, so I don't want to be too snooty about it. But I think there's people who are desperate, and it's easy for individuals to prey on that. Unfortunately,
Yeah. So, quick on
yeah.
H-1Bs, like we have cases still pending, and their employers are just doing pre and processing now. They're getting approved in like 48 hours, but it's December. I mean, October, November, so 2 or
I
3 months
know.
later.
I know we have some exactly from filed in April and May, right? From the
Yeah.
cap. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's like
I know
ridiculous.
we're
Yeah.
also, yeah. No, I know. It does feel like a shakedown just to get the extra money. And yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because we're having a discussion this week on whether I mean, I just kept telling people to wait, but I mean, they're just not processing them.
Yeah.
And obviously I mean, there's all different facts depending on the situation. Sometimes it's okay to wait, but sometimes you really need to get the
Yeah.
decision.
So,
Yeah.
I have this private community page for lawyers on this website called Circle.so, and one of the tabs on the page, this community page, I started copy pasting employment positions that are coming. Essentially, I'm watching LinkedIn. Someone says, "Oh, we got an immigration lawyer job." I just copy paste it, put it there so people can see it. And I've only done it for the last 3 months, but for the last 3 months, every day, almost, if not every day and a half, there's an employment based law firm that's hiring for an EB attorney that has 2 to 5 year
Oh,
experience. But it's a lot. There's been such massive growth in the law firm space when it comes to EB cases that it kind of causes me some consternation. It's like, what's going on? Now, people are more aware of the existence of the NIW more than they ever been because of the internet. And like we were talking about caps, EB1 is usually doesn't have a cap for most countries, but that's going to be hit with a
Yeah.
solid cap pretty soon. Who knows what this gold card maybe nonsense is going to be because it's
Well,
not
the
INA
gold
based. So
card.
I don't even understand how they're talking about that with a straight face. But
Yeah.
I mean, do
Yeah.
you think it's
Yeah.
possible without you have to change the
I
act? You
I
can't
don't
do.
know what I don't I have I mean, obviously, I've heard of the gold card, and I've heard the latest things that it may even be in the EB1 category, but I mean, you gotta do rulemaking. You can't I mean, I don't they've, like, created a website for
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so I don't know how that's legal, and obviously a lot of things that the Trump administration has done have proven not to be legal,
Mhm.
but it takes a while, of course, to settle these things. That's interesting that there've been a lot of postings. I think again, it does depend on the practice. I think that international companies are trying to move more. Obviously, that's arguably one of the successes of the Trump administration is getting all these company, I mean, notwithstanding Hyundai and sending all the workers back. Um, but although I did think that whoever does the Hyundai blanket L's or E2s or something will have a, it's like they all came on. I think they all came as visitors, and so there is, and and there's obviously more compliance concerns, reasonably, on a variety of fronts. But if you think of the macro, just the overall, like, I mean, if so much of it was driven by international students and the number of international students is down, I think over 10%, and that's what's known. I mean, they're always trailing the data.
Mhm.
And I don't, I mean, I think that's going to continue to be an issue. And if if the pool of people keeps going down, and then again, if the demand for the H-1B workers is also down. I mean, I think the economy is really bifurcating, and even this is true for US workers, there's the very high end, the PhD super specialized, or maybe like a niche sector like nurses or doctors, and then, ag workers and things like that. But just kind of like, well, I came here and I got a master's degree in business analytics and I want to go work at Amazon. It's like
Mhm.
that's a pretty saturated thing to do right now, I think.
Well,
Um,
speaking of nurses, I mean, they took him down from the professionals list so he could get less loans, which means we're gonna have less domestic nurses. More Filipino nurses are coming, so that whole Schedule B
I
situation
know.
might get pushed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't understand the idea. I mean, if, affordability, I mean, all the politicians are supposed to be focused on affordability. And how do you not? I mean, healthcare is so expensive. So increasing the supply of workers would seem to fit into affordability. But clearly there's just people who are involved in immigration policy right now who are so ideological that they're not, I mean, logic or other political concerns, I mean, even just the base political concerns that you're offending all the Indians and the Latinos, and you go down the list, and those were popular, groups that voted for Trump in relatively high numbers, and he's like now offended all these groups, and it's like just the base political calculation would think, well, why are you doing that, but I get, I don't know. And it is true that maybe some of these things in 2029, when there's a new president, the pendulum could switch back, but and certainly on the policy and the tone, that can switch, but unless Congress increases the H-1B cap or changes things for the visa bulletin, or somebody actually pays attention to labor certification, which is
Yeah.
so incredibly slow, those will continue to be problems. And then the demand, that could be a structural thing, if AI really comes in and all the kind of entry level white collar workers can be replaced by a chat, an AI agent.
Mhm.
And then I don't think the competition is going to go away. I think that these tools and platforms and Reddit samples or whatever
Yeah.
else people are out there, that's going to increase for as competition. And I think it's just a challenging thing for immigration attorneys. And I just think it's, again, something to be aware of. In the same way that I think it was back in 2022, beginning of the year, I was trying to get people to say, oh, EB2NIW, these other approaches, it's like I was trying to like call and I feel like I was kind of early on that, and then by 2024, it was like, well, everyone kind of overcrowded those channels. But and so I'm trying to, I guess, be a prophet on some of these things as far as our practice and what but of course you've got a very valuable niche in what you do. And unfortunately, I mean, you may be flying all over the country and trying to keep clients not going into jail or something. I don't know, that's a
Yeah,
crazy development.
it's just having the interviews was like coming up. The Trump administration was like a thing, but prepping for the interviews, a lot of them went without attorneys even up till now because the case were clean. But this situation where people potentially being picked up at adjustments, then we got to find local counsel. If I can't go, I'm going to an interview tomorrow actually. See how that goes as an overstay. It's still getting approved. The San Diego situation was a nightmare, but it's still not blanket across the country. But it's definitely
Yeah,
something that's worrisome. And
yeah,
this really kind of goes into just the F1 feeder system. If you're practicing affirmative cases when it comes to even asylum or, but primarily, family and employment based, they get married in college or they
yeah, yeah.
asylum
They
claim
meet
emerges
people.
college. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
And EV people, yeah, the NIW, they go to get a PhD, they get employers, all of it. So the statistics on F1 student visas, like in the last 10 years, was exponential growth, the number of visas coming out. And just the number of ICE officers relative to the number of students went like from, 10,000 ICE officers, one student to like 100,000. It's like some crazy numbers. I remember last year I was studying it. And they're trying to change that one where DS goes away, duration of status. So, 10% of students not going to know what's going on and they're going to fall foul and go out of status by accident. So then they won't be able
yeah,
to change or adjust or stuff like that, or be subject to a 3 or 10 year bar accidentally, which people have messed up so much on student fees and the schools don't know what's going on. It creates a lot of problems. So
yeah,
potentially the lawyering
yeah,
will be on these complex cases where you got to do denial responses, intense litigation, but stuff that a lot of is customer
yeah.
service and
That's
just being
right.
mindful of not saying, just keeping it clean, which is a main part, a lot of what we do. That's, people are just going to say it's cheaper or these other firms that promise, okay, same price, but we use massive technology and AI to do your case. And, they fall in love with the cells of that. And maybe the AI does make a difference. I don't know. But that may be the way that they'll sell it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, that as things are more complex, that's where we lawyers, I think, need to gravitate towards. And that's a fair point. But then it's still a challenge because, when it's complex, it takes our time, and when it takes our time, we have to charge for that. And
It's gonna be more expensive. If someone comes to
yeah,
NIW
exactly.
and you have like 30 days to appeal, and it's like I don't even want to do it. Frankly, if someone doesn't come in from the
Yeah.
beginning, I don't really want to pick it up usually. But that's just
Yeah,
what we're
no, no,
seeing.
that's right. No, no, that's right. And to the extent that, litigation is now part of every part of immigration law,
Yeah,
that which was never traditionally the case. Yeah, it's just I think we have to just keep being nimble. And I mean, there's definitely, I mean, one of the things, despite me saying all this, there's a lot of people who need our help
yeah.
for sure. More, maybe more than ever, people need our help. And, but just trying to figure out how to deliver that service in a way that makes sense economically for us and for our clients. I've kind of found, and maybe to some extent that's what you were saying, is that as things have become more complex, I feel like I want to be more narrow because I want to stay up on,
Yeah.
you know, what I'm doing and do it well. As they change so many rules and processes, it's really hard to be spread out too far, right? And because it's like, you can't really keep up with the changes. And yeah, I think, but I think my main, push right now is that the employment-based immigration practice, it seems to be changing a lot, and definitely Trump is a big factor in that. But there are these other
Hmm.
factors, and even if we get a different president, those other factors may still be continuing. And we're not going to get another president for 3 more years, so we got a ways to go to get through this
Oh
thing.
boy, yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
December. I'm like, okay, we're done, almost done with the first year of it, and wow, it didn't let you down. It was exactly what you expected it would be.
Well, well, and I have to say, I mean, I survived the first Trump term, but this is a different magnitude. This is just different, and it really is tough. The other thing too that I would say, I mean, I've just been trying to practice it. I'm sure you are. Is you know, this is a marathon, so self care for us attorneys. Just trying to figure out how to not go crazy with the way the government is. I think some, post pandemic, a lot of client relation, there's some challenges there. Like, I mean, some of the things that you read about in other industries, like the airline industry, and
Yeah.
some of the rage that exists. I mean, I think that's out there among potential clients and things, and just trying to make sure that we all have enough support and kind of moderation. And I mean, when I was super busy, I mean, it was just intense, and sometimes I didn't have much patience for things, and I've
Mhm.
tried to get better about that. But it takes a lot of, you have to be deliberate about that. You have to really put that into your life.
Immigration training, a lot of job is just thinking a lot about our cases. So we never shut it off. It's in your dreams. It's when you wake up, before you go to bed, while you're having
I
coffee. It's
know.
always spinning in your head
It's
constantly.
terrible. It's terrible. It's why, I don't know about you, but I don't tell my kids to become a lawyer. It's too much. Too much, I'd like to be able to I mean, I try to turn it off, but it's hard not to. And something will remind you, pop into your head, and then you'll
Mhm.
realize, yeah. Yeah. But
Is
I
there,
appreciate
yeah,
what you've been doing. And
thank you.
I think you found a good niche to preach to the lawyers. I mean, we need that, right? And we need different outlets. I mean, Ayla does a good job, but it's good to have multiple kind of outlets for community, I guess. Maybe it sounds a
Yeah,
bit
we're
cheesy,
spread
but
out. It just
yeah,
helps
yeah,
knowing, like, okay, it's not just me going through this insanity. And for me, it helps a lot because I get to talk with people. So it's been a really good release for me. But people listening to they hear like, okay, not just me who's thinking this, like this, none of this makes sense and it's too difficult, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's still being an immigration attorney. The last I've been doing it 15 years has been wonderful, and I'm like so happy. I fell into this job, never realized it, and it's still good. But at the same time, when you have to stress about dumb things, like it's like really like they're gonna have to, or the consular officer does something. I haven't done one myself, but someone posted on the Facebook, one of these Facebook sites, like they had an E2 that was a very strong E2, a bunch of money, business operating renewal. They denied it for marginality when it's like a huge business. And like, what are you be thinking? Like London, why is it
and
so?
it's a renewal, so the
Yeah,
business is going. Yeah,
going, it grew, has more
yeah,
business, more employees. And so when you see stuff like that, it just like you want to tear your head out. And the clients, like it's poor people, they have like all this investment, like you just destroyed the whole business, all the employees. None of this makes any sense. And
yeah.
that lack of making sense, the illogicality, I guess, made it
No,
word.
I know, I know. It's so hard, and you second guess yourself. I mean, in the year 2025, we had more improperly rejected cases than probably the rest of my career,
Yeah.
where the mailroom just
Oh man.
and we've kind of gotten on top of it, but there was a little flurry of, them being obsessed with signatures,
Yeah.
and like whether and they just kind of have this flavor of the month thing quality to it. And I mean, I don't know. It's just hard to believe that we haven't even gotten through a full year of the Trump administration, right? I mean, we've gotten through 10 months, or whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, I knew there'd be changes and it'd be bad, but it really exceeded my
Yeah.
my expectations. And I mean, they find new ways to kind of make things terrible, like the the and detaining people at adjustment interviews kind of thing. Like, wow, that's
It's a low blow.
amazing.
It's really, and a lot of them were like in San Diego where there's like a base there. So they're, spousal Marines and sailors and stuff. Like it's like no, they don't even give a damn. Like those who don't care who you are. It's not. It's like so ridiculous.
I know, and they're still eligible to anyway. I was,
Yeah,
as you
yeah.
know, but
So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to think of something positive to say about it. There's always, I've been thinking because once on I'm Iranian. Probably 10% of my cases are Iranian. There's always a Venezuelan there. We even have a Sierra Leone case. Uh, this idea of like we're just going to ban third world country migration, do net minus migration. That's like, it's like how they try on Thanksgiving. It's like what's going to happen to business next year and stuff like what future is there. When Trump first came, I was really worried, but I had a boom this year, the first 10 months where it's kind of slowed down the last like 30 days, but we're like a record year. And I just got to think
Oh
like
wow,
whatever
okay.
they throw at you, like you got to kind of do a judo move and be like, okay, how could I turn this around? Because you got, yourself, you have employees or you have families and stuff, how to figure it out. So I just look at their new marketing methods I could do to get things going, to get more attention. YouTube views have gone down dramatically in YouTube's recent algorithm change. So even big time YouTubers, their things are going in
Interesting.
half. The amount of podcasters, yeah, I'll make sure you plug your podcast, but it's I used to be like only two or three immigration podcasts. Now there's like 15 or 20 of them. So like that, there's a glut there.
Yeah.
So, but it kind of shows like there's demand for it, but at the same time, like you got to think what the new thing is. I downloaded the Sora app, the AI video maker app, to play around with it.
Oh,
Uh,
oh.
it's cute. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it only had a million downloads for Android, which I thought would be more than a million. So the audience is really there. But it's kind of like, what is the new thing? The new TikTok, the new podcast, new YouTube, trying to get some views
Yeah,
and get
yeah.
attention.
I know, I know. I mean, I basically like my podcast is very niche on these employment-based topics, and I'm really trying to use it to supplement the information. I mean, some people they either, it doesn't make sense to do a consultation with them, or they just need
Yeah,
kind of an overview of things. So, and a lot of there's a lot of misinformation too, as you know,
yeah.
out there, and so especially on these niche topics, it's like a good outlet for me. I mean, but it's basically just me, ranting into a microphone. But
One last question
it's a
for
good point. Yeah, it's a good point to be flexible, though, and that's great that you're. I mean, it's a good year for you. I mean, so Trump's been good for you. Look at that.
Yeah, I think it scared people into hiring grace attorneys because there'll be cases where they're like, I have a clean, adjustment case where I need a lawyer. But now, like, I just want to give it to you, which has been like, I worked. So I hate the fact that people have to be scared to hire. I never want that to be the case, but it's the reality
Yeah,
of
yeah.
it.
No,
So
no, but yeah. That's right. Yeah, yeah,
now,
yeah.
one last question. So you were like huge on LinkedIn and still are. You kind of change your post. It's always kind of cool. You have the images and you have a quote. Are you constantly reading newspaper and magazines? How do you come up with this constant flow of content like that?
Oh, well, yeah. So basically, I take things, I still am on Twitter or X. So I just basically take a lot of things from there. But then I do try to go back to, like an original source. So whether it's, a Reuters article or, obviously the Trump administration posts kind of their crazy stuff.
Yeah,
But, yeah, so I'm trying to take topics a little broader. I mean, I do feel like a lot of people post about just standard immigration
yeah.
law, and so I'm trying to like be a little bit different, I guess. And but sometimes, and then I'm trying to not always be negative. And I think it's right now, if I just posted the actual changes in immigration law, it would just be like post after post of terrible things. But immigration and the topics of migration and foreign nationals and the economy, there's really a lot of ways in which those play in. And yeah, so I've been fortunate to have a pretty big network for that. And obviously I work with a lot of Indian clients, and unfortunately there's just been really a lot of anti-Indian sentiment this year. It's really weird. I mean, so many Indian immigrants have been successful, positive
Yeah,
contributors to this country. It's just strange that, and there's even, fairly high profile people of Indian origin within the Trump administration. And of
yeah.
course, the vice president is married to a, a woman of Indian,
Head of the FBI too. Yeah, it's
heritage.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but I don't know. I mean, uh it's hard to understand why they do some of the things that they do, but I don't think in the next 3 years they're going to recalibrate on that. I think this is just year one of kind of this crazy thing that we're going
yeah.
to go through. And
Just double down and
like you've
double down.
said,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and finding new new things that you wouldn't even have thought was a thing, but they will find something. And and even if they don't do, even if the Republicans don't do well in the midterms, which I suspect they won't, I don't know that there'll be any, because this is just a very ideological thing for a lot of those people. And I think
Yeah.
some of them are actually more hardcore than Trump, to be honest.
Yeah, I hate to add even more insult to injury, but the big beautiful bill funding for ICE kicks in next year. We're going to see in the new hirings that are going to start going the streets. So the electronic police state with the goons are in 2026 is full on. So we're going to
Yeah.
see really which direction the Republic goes the next 30 years. Actually,
Well,
I
it's
was one of those people
fair.
say
It's
Trump's the
fair. Yeah.
fascist going to take over, but essentially the ICE funding and stuff. It's what are you going to do with this large group of armed people with masks running around that have policing authority that you could deploy.
Yeah, and they clearly have, like, run out of stuff to do at this point without even though, all that, it's like, so yeah. But anyway, I appreciate that you let me get into this, all this here at the end of the year, and I know
Yeah.
you'll do what you want with it, but I just had these things I wanted to get off my chest, I guess, at the end of the year here.
Well, for those listening to audio, you are wearing very festive clothes and a happy Santa Claus hat. So if you just heard the
Yeah,
audio, it
that's
doesn't
right.
match the video. Video is a little
Well,
more
that's
cheerful.
true. That's true. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. All right.
I appreciate
Thanks
you
a
coming on the
lot.
show. I appreciate it. Could you plug
All right.
your podcast? What the name is?
Yeah, it's Weber Immigration. It's just on Substack, and I've got a newsletter and podcast there. And yeah, so please, if you're interested in some of these topics, just subscribe. I appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, John. Yep, bye now.
All right, everybody. I'm not sure if at the intro of the video I missold it or what, but it was hard to listen. And Bob saying that stuff is a person with authority, and he's right about all the things he's talking about, the specific factors of not just the Trump administration, but these quotas, these caps that exist, and all these other aspects of immigration practice that are difficult. But the reality is, America is an immigrant country. There's no net immigration negative that can happen, as the president has said. And even with that, most people do not hire immigration attorneys statistically. So the pie is still room for growth, even if the pie is getting smaller, because so few pieces of it essentially are being used by immigration attorneys. But people need these services, and maybe finding different ways to provide these services in group settings, AI settings, all these kind of different things are tools. That is not settings, but these kind of tools to just get more. This might force us to figure out less expensive ways for people to get access to these tools because they need the access, and access is expensive. But again, I think the AI tools and different systems we have with computers and working together, we can figure out ways to get that and increase, the work that we have, so we're less worried about this stuff. But it requires you to open up, talk with people, develop relationships, not hide information, go on and do this kind of stuff to develop these things for that to happen. And we're here to do that. Thanks so much for listening. I'll catch you all next time. If you like this episode, follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, where we post the latest statistics, tips, and more. And stay tuned for more from the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast.